And we're good. Okay. Yes, please start. Right. So the talk is badged as Aston because Aston paid for me to go to Florence where I first gave it. I think they'll pick up my bus fare today as well. It's not really an Aston talk. Which mouse button do I press? Or is it just space? No? Did you move forward in?
No, I've got it on the wheel here.
Okay, I can move forward in the wheel. Just
one click on the wheel.
Right. I can do
Batteries
that.
run out on that, unfortunately.
I've never used Edge before, not with PDF. Right, so as I said, I'm Ian Turton. During the day, I work for Aston Technology. We provide coding support, training for a wide range of open source products, all your support needs. In my copious spare time, I'm a moderator on GIS Stack Exchange, and I contribute to GeoTools and GeoServer. I've also just moved to Scotland. For all people who are worried, I'm still working for Aston. We're a fully remote company. The company hasn't noticed I've moved yet. So I asked them to start St Andrew's Day off as a holiday. Then they'll realise. Oops, wrong way. If you are copying the slides, they are on the internet. To save people and take pictures, I thought I'd just put a big QR code up. And I will put it up again at the end for anybody who hasn't got their camera out yet and wants to catch it later. No, it's not actually going to. Yeah, putting that is confusing. Right, so this is really a thinly veiled old man who yells at the cloud rant, which I'm becoming more and more famous for. This is actually part 3 of my famous old man rants at the cloud. You may remember me from previous Phosphogee 2015, was earning your support instead of buying it. Trying to encourage people to be polite and ask things, do something in return. And the 2019 and 2020 sneak hit, Secret Life of Open Source Developers, I did with Andrea. It's well worth a watch, apparently. It got on Hackers News one time, it suddenly became viral. Oops, wrong direction again. We'll try and get the hang of this. So, what am I ranting about this week? Stack Exchange. How many people in the room have used Stack Exchange? Excellent. How many people have used GIS Stack Exchange? Okay, good. It's a site where you can ask questions. And sometimes you can answer questions as well. This is the other thing I have to keep trying to remind people. You are allowed to answer questions. And obviously there's the ever popular cutting and pasting Stack Overflow as a form of programming technique that people use. And don't let senior devs tell you that they don't, because they do. It's just that often we find an answer that we wrote 5 years ago and cut and paste that into our current code. It's always good. So this is GIS Stack Exchange. It's just like Stack Exchange, Stack Overflow. In fact, it's more geographic and hopefully slightly less aggressive and slightly less, we like to think, we're kind of gentler form of Stack Exchange. So, there were some people who didn't put their hands up, so I don't use Stack Exchange. Should I care about this talk? Well, yeah, because actually you're still asking good questions when you call up your tech support people, or you're reporting your issue to your help desk or anybody else's help desk. The things I'm going to suggest today are all useful techniques for getting a sensible answer out of any support team. Obviously, you would hope that your support desk gave you better answers than every try switching on and off again, but you never know. Mine just laugh when you tell them it's on fire. So to misquote Tolstoy, all happy users are alike, but each unhappy user is unhappy in his own way. You're stuck, you're in a hurry, stupid program won't do what you want it to do. Everybody in the room has been in this position at times, I'm sure. You should have heard me trying to stream all 4 onto the stupid TV in the Airbnb I'm staying at the moment. God, that should not be that hard. So, take a deep breath and remember, nobody owes you an answer unless you're paying. If you're a paid customer of Aston, yes, I will do everything in my power to help you. It's there and then. If you're asking on GIS Stack Exchange, I'm doing this for free, in my spare time, for fun. If you're rude, I ain't going to answer it. Okay? If you can't be bothered to do the useful, helpful stuff I'm asking you to do, again, you're dead to me. I'll never answer your questions ever again, unless you change the username. If you break the rules, then we'll close your question. That's just the way Stack Exchange is. And you need to make your question right the first time, because a lot of people don't bother to revisit questions. I'm bizarre in that I do spend a lot of time scanning back to look at questions I make comments on to see if they've actually changed them or anything. A lot of people don't bother to do that. They'll just look at the current and newest list of questions. If you don't get it right the first time, well, you probably lost a chance to get an answer. So, a few things to avoid at all costs. Spam. Do not spam. If you like Stack Exchange, do not spam Stack Exchange in general. Your post will get deleted. Every chance that your account will get deleted. So this is a useful chance to get a new username. And nobody will buy your product and possibly will go out of their way to uninstall it and stop using it because you're the sort of people who spam open source sites. Don't troll and provoke other users. You'll get people who turn up and they say, oh, I used to use QGIS, but now they make me use ArcGIS, or I used to use ArcGIS, and now they make me use QGIS, and it's crap, but I can't do anything I want to do. Your post is gone, and we're not bothering with the rest of your reading the rest of your post if you start out like that. Mark it up for whichever system you're interested in. People who aren't interested in that system won't see it, those tag flights. You will get banned if you breach code conduct. You get a warning to start with, but then you'll get banned. And you get banned for 2 days, then you get banned for a week, and then you get banned for a month, and then you get banned for 6 months. Eventually you get banned for a year. We banned somebody for a year the other week. He just doesn't seem to get the hang of it. We've explained to him what he's doing wrong regularly, and he keeps doing it. And nobody will answer your questions. So, you know, I'm with Calvin on this. We don't devote nearly enough scientific research to finding a cure for jerks. Don't paste in pictures of your text, because I'm too often scanning it on my phone. So I'm sat on the bus this morning trying to answer questions. Some guy's pasted in a picture of his error text, and it's like this big. I can scan it out, and I can see. I get it big enough to read one word, and I have to move it across a bit. And don't do that. I can't read it. Google and the other robots can't read it, so other people searching for your question won't find it. Common solution I always use. I get an error message, I Google it, and hopefully that will show me somebody who's found a solution to this. It's in a text piece, it's in a picture, I can't see it. I also can't cut and paste your code into my editor to test it. So your question will get closed until such time as you can be bothered to type your code in. Read the manual. Key thing, check, nobody has asked you a question before. Because, to be honest, you don't get an answer if you are the 4,567th person who says, I've put my shapefile into QGIS and it shows up just off the coast of Africa instead of in Norway where I want to be. We're just going to close your question as a duplicate. And as if I can be bothered, I may just delete it without even doing that. So there's a search sidebar. Google indexes Stack Exchange very well. Go if you prefer to not use Google. We will close it to duplicate. So just a little bit, one small search before you appear in Stack Exchange and ask the question. That's all we ask. Closing questions as duplicates is often controversial. People say, but it's not a duplicate. In which case, edit your question to explain to me why it's not a duplicate of that one I said it was. I'm quite happy to reopen it at that point. If you can say, no, you've misunderstood. He's asking for that and that and that, and I want this and that in a different thing. Okay, that's fine. But your question obviously wasn't clear to me that that was the case. If I close your question, don't cut and paste it and repost it. I closed it for a reason. I'm going to close your new one for the same reason, or more commonly because it's a duplicate of your first closed question. You do that twice, the system thinks you're a spammer and will delete your account. So don't do that. We will always leave you a clue as to why we closed your question. It will say, you didn't put the code in as text, or it's a duplicate of this one, or you haven't shown a good faith effort to actually answer this question and give us a clue as to what you're thinking about, or we just don't understand what we're talking about. Edit your question. If you just repost it an hour later, we're going to notice. Often, even if you repost it a day later, we're still going to notice. It's not that busy a site. Once you edit your question, it gets considered for reopening. 3 people think you can reopen, it needs reopening, it will be reopened. If one of the moderators sees that it needs reopening, it will be reopened. It's not a very high bar to getting it reopened. But again, if you've marked it as duplicate, add something to make clear why it's not a duplicate. Convince me that I should reopen this question for you. So, getting a good answer, ask a focused question. So, focused question on actual problem you've faced, including the details you've tried and exactly what you are trying to do. That's the key bit, exactly what you're trying to do. And preferably in a way that I will understand. Don't say, I'm trying to recreate widget, company X's widget in ArcMap in QGIS. I've never used company X's widget, let alone in ArcGIS. Give me a clue, what are you trying to do? Do you want the start points of your rivers? Do you want to calculate fall distance? I don't know what that widget does. Give us a clue. Try and avoid questions that are primarily opinion-based. So another one we get is, oh, we're trying to decide whether to go with ArcGIS Pro or ArcMap, which is better. Well, it depends. Honestly, I wouldn't go with either of them, but that's not the question you asked. It's opinion. There isn't a way to get the right answer to that question. So we try not to encourage questions like that. There are other places you can ask that, like Reddit, Hacker News. But don't be too focused. So sometimes we get where somebody posts, here's line 15 of my code. It doesn't work. Well, what did line 14 do? Could you give me a clue? Or you could be asking something that's clearly you've got some planning in mind, but we're not quite sure why. So that was a full question there. I have various shapefiles, .tag, .mif, .shx, .kml, and would like to pass the CRS from them. And that was his whole question. Which was, you know, why do you want the CRS from them? Did you realize that none of those are shapefiles? What are you trying to do? Why will you do this? It's just self-thought. We can't start asking. I had to close that and say, look, give us some more detail. These are the various things that are wrong with your question. I can't answer this question. Tags. Okay. Again, if you've used Stack Exchange, you've seen the tags under a question. You can have up to 5 tags on a question, and you can search for them, and you can add. You can restrict your searches by tags, and in fact, you can. Regular users can either highlight or hide questions based on their tags. So you post a question about GeoServer, it will appear in yellow on my screen. You post a question about ArcMap, it won't appear on my screen at all. Which is because, to be honest, I don't know the answer to most of the ArcMap questions. So it does annoy me. It's great. So make sure you pick the right tags for your question. We get people who just randomly assign tags to them sometimes, and that doesn't really help. Get some reputation. You'll know that when you first arrive at Stack Exchange or the Stack Exchange, you get, I think you get a reputation of 1 to start with. And then the more answers, the more your question gets upvoted or your answers get upvoted, the more reputation you get. So people are more likely to answer questions from people with a reputation because it shows they've put some effort into the site. You're a newbie, you've turned up, you've got a score of 1. You don't have any badges because you've not even read the help page yet. So I'm looking at that thinking, well, I might get him to accept the answer if I answer the question, or I might not. What's the point? Somebody's got a reputation of 200, 300. They're probably going to know how the site works. They're probably going to give me an upvote for answering their question. They're going to be supportive. They probably know what they're doing. So if your question is useful, they upvote it. If they don't, they downvote it. You lose points to get downvotes, except if you've only got 1 point because you can't go below 1. So that's the one thing. People will downvote newbies. It's always the one because they haven't got any points to lose. As I say, gain reputation by answering questions. Before you ask your first question, just go along and answer some questions. We have some 30,000 unanswered questions lying around on the site. You can probably answer some of them. You're an expert in something. Have a look, check what they've asked questions about and whether you can answer a question. It'll show up on the list as a new answer, and I will probably upload it because I like uploading answers. I don't upload questions nearly enough, apparently. Partly because people ask questions too often. But gain badges. You get a badge for reading the help page. That's how I can tell whether you've read the help page or not. You should get a badge for it. If you have no badges, I know you didn't read the help page. So I'm much more likely to help you if you've contributed to the site. That shows you've got to care for me. Tell me what you're trying to do. Again, I understand sometimes you're dealing with confidential internal stuff and you want to redact lots of stuff, but you've got to tell me roughly what you're doing. So here, this guy wants to calculate the areas of polygon using the geometry to area function in the field calculator, but every time I click OK to complete the task, it's crashing. Well, there's a lot of ways you can calculate the area of a polygon in the field editor. Which one of them are you using? How did you project your data? Maybe that's why it's crashing. Are you going over the poles possibly, or across the anti-meridian? What's your operating system? I'm going to guess Windows because you say the system's crashing. But it might not be. It might be a Mac. I can't prove that. What data are you looking at? Can I reproduce this? Is there a way I can test this? A lot of people will arrive and say, I found a bug in QGIS. I'm not saying that QGIS is bug-free. Could have bugs, but the odds that you, a random new user who's been using it for 3 hours, has found a bug in it are slim. And you're more likely you've done something really stupid and broken it yourself. But I'm prepared to test that if you give me the data and the clues what you're trying to do. Show me what went wrong and what you expected. So I'm currently in a project where I need to identify the road exists in an intersection or not. However, there are 700 roads, which is a hassle if I do it manually. Is it possible to identify whether the road intersects or not through QGIS concept? I don't know. What sort of intersections do you want? You worry about bridges? Does a motorway bridge count as an intersection? I'm not sure. Obviously, if you're on the survey, it does count as an intersection. You can turn that down. I will explain that more in the public. Anybody wants to know. What format is your data in? Because that might make a difference to how we're doing it. What tools are you using? What tools do you have available? If I recommend an answer in PG routing, and you're going to say, well, but all my data is in Oracle. Doesn't help. Give me a screenshot. That will show me what you're trying to do and what went wrong. What's the problem? Yes, show me what GeoServer or MapServer thinks is going on. So this is traditional, I got this error, I did this, and it doesn't work any longer. I picked a random version of something and I added that too. Here's my error message. It's a 503 GeoServer not available. Yeah, that's pretty much just means the GeoServer can start. It doesn't tell me why. So find the log file for your service. Get out the relevant part of the log file. Do not post 2.5 gigabytes of log files as if everything that's been logged since you first installed it. Just the bit that shows what broke. If necessary, turn the logging level up. GeoServer, for example, normal production level, it only logs the error. If you turn up to debugger, it will tell me which line threw that error and what the actual error was. Then I can tell you what went wrong. But as I say, only need to see the actual error. If you can't reproduce your error more than once, then again, I'm not interested. And for anybody who's asking, well, what's the relevant part of the log file? We're looking for the line that says caused by, usually in a Java environment. So GeoServer, GeoTools, people like that. We're looking for caused by. Most of the lines above that with the GUI saying something went horribly wrong earlier on. But this is what caused it. And that's what I'm looking for then. Oops. Don't ask the same question again, unless you say why it's different from previous times. As I say, last time I checked, we had several hundred questions of the. I tried to overlay my shapefile on top of open layers, and it doesn't line up. I set the project. Don't set the projection of your data. Reproject your data. Don't ever set the data of your projection. What have you tried, and why didn't that fix your issue? So this is a classic. I've read so many posts that didn't solve my problem. Tell me which ones, because I can suggest others probably. What did they say? What did you actually try? Again, give me a clue. Otherwise, we will suggest the same thing again. And then show you find you got an answer or you didn't. The answer worked, accept it. Tell future people, including yourself, that this is the correct answer to your question. GIS Stack Exchange, we don't often get multiple competing answers. We quite often get the one right answer quite quickly because we've got a lot of experts on the site. But if there are 4 or 5 answers there, it's useful if one of them's got a green check mark next to it that shows that was the one that worked for you at least. That'll be the one I try first if I found this question. If you find a good answer to somebody else's question when you're Googling it, take you to Stack Exchange, upvote it. Tell everybody else that was a good answer and you liked it. Even if it wasn't the accepted answer, because that will, again, if I get the green tick's got 2 votes and the next answer down has got 19, and I'll try that one first, because that implies that one works better, even though the original author was happy with it. Reputation, it's all about reputation. So you get reputation. If you vote 300 times in a day, you get another badge, if you're collecting badges. But the way you pay back people answering your question is by upvoting their answers. I didn't get any answers, but I did manage to fix it myself. Great, answer your question. You can answer your own question, perfectly acceptable. Whatever you do, don't leave us like Denver Coder 9 that never told us what the solution to their problem was. And again, it's useful for you yourself. In 5 years' time, when the same problem comes up, you can Google it and your answer will show up, rather than it's written in my notebook somewhere. Oh God, which year did I do that? Sadly, you can't upvote your own question when you find it 5 years later, which is a shame. So, summary. Be polite. Everybody at Stack Exchange pretty much is a volunteer. Somebody asked me how much, Florence asked me how much I got paid to work at Stack Exchange. I worked it out. It's half a t-shirt and a 10th of a hat a year. At the moment is how I'm doing. Oh, and a 10th of drinks cup. So it's not about we're getting rich doing this. Search before you ask. Respect the rules. Make sure you know the rules. Vote early, vote often, and answer other people's questions to earn support. And then there's the slides again. And I'm Ian Turton. I'm in Boston.mastodon. I think if anybody is looking for me, no, Boston.org or Scott.mastodon.
You can find them. Thank you very much. That was very useful, like how to off, how to fly. That was extremely useful. Do we have any question for you?
Yeah, I can stop Stack Exchange account.
How many active kind of users and questions and moderators?
There are 5 moderators, 2 of whom are currently marked absent, me because I'm moving house and Anita because she's starting a new job. And then there are, I don't know actually how many users there are, thousands of users. And it's about, we've just passed 100,000 questions over the last.
Questions would kind of show up every week or day?
Oh, it's
Dozens, tens, fives?
dozens. I get an email every 4 hours with the new QGIS and GeoTools and GeoServer questions, which is between 5 and 1 and 5 every 4 hours.
Just on GeoTools and GeoServer.
And QGIS, yeah.
So, thank you.
Thank you.
Not that I'm obsessed with answering this.
Some of these volunteer systems have got a kind of distribution of 90-10. That's 10%.
There are some users.
Do you see the same
Yes.
sort
So
of?
if you look, there are a few users with with reputation of thousands, and then quite a lot with hundreds, and then billions with 1 because they logged on once, asked a question, and forgot what the account ID was, and next time they had a question, they asked
Yeah,
it. They created a new account again.
Okay, do we have a final question or we can move to the next? Yes.
It's interesting how you were just saying there about people who've logged in and got accounts that asked a question once, but I have used Stack Exchange so much, but I don't think I've ever asked a question because the answer is already always there. And I think
You can
it'd be
still
interesting
log on
to-
and upvote.
Yeah. I suppose maybe what I should do is actually create an account because you can just by saying that was
It'll
useful.
keep you logged in all the time. When unless your cookie rejection is very strict. But yeah, because that way you're at least feeding the algorithm as well. Google takes how many votes a question's got into account and it's recommending it as an answer.
Okay, I don't think we've got any other question. Thank you very much, Ian. Really. Is it better or should I open?